Good morning, it's Simon here from Serial Trainer 7, and today's collection of books covers a subject that many people want to master, and yet often they're quite scared to do it. And this is the subject of presentation skills. Now, there's a ton of stuff out there on presentation skills, and what I've done is I've taken some of the ones that I like the most and put them into groups that focus on different elements of presenting. So on the first step here, we have got 4 books which look at creating a presentation and putting one together. This one, called Slideology, focuses on how to put great slides together and how to make the content more meaningful. Of course, before you do any of that, you might want to have a little bit of a brainstorm on things, so you might want to have a look at the creativity side of it. So How to Have Great Ideas by John Ingledew is a really great book. You'll see I've got quite a lot of post-it notes in there because this allows us to think in a very creative way before we put our presentation together. We've got Presentation Zen by Gar Reynolds. This is an older book, but there's some really good stuff in here around making things stick and creating a really good quality presentation. And Dan Rome's book around it's called Show and Tell, but it's about adding a little bit more extraordinary stuff or doing things a little bit differently, so you want things to stand out. So the content creation of presentations is here. If we look at confidence, and those areas, then what we've got is we've got the Persuasion books by Robert Cialdini. We've got his traditional and quite excellent book on influence, The Science and Practice, on the left, and one of his latest books, I think it is his latest book, called Persuasion, which is how to influence and persuade prior to an event, is very useful too. I brought another book on persuasion as well by Nick Kolenda, which looks at human behaviour, and then Amy Cuddy and her book Presence. She's also got a TED talk as well, and it's quite incredible, really worthwhile. I think she's the #2 most watched talk on TED, but it's well worth having a look at this book because it's about how you command space and be very, very confident in a very natural way. One of the best books on overcoming fears of public speaking and presenting, or just overcoming fears in life generally, is Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. I don't really need to say very much about this book because it really does speak for itself. It is a truly exceptional book. Then when we move into presenting, we have to be thinking about our own self. So we've got body language. And I mentioned this one earlier in the week, but this helps you to understand how you stand and how you present yourself. And whilst you are presenting, you may end up getting into a situation where you're using bits of storytelling and different language. Shelley Rose Charvet's book, Words That Change Minds, help us to use psychological language which we can incorporate within a presentation to help influence an outcome or to make a difference to the way that we put a point across. It focuses on the whole towards and away from mentality. Very, very powerful stuff. And of course, sometimes we like to use metaphors, and this Power of Metaphor book is also a great way to help train you to use metaphor to its greatest extent. Once you're in a presentation, you may find that it's the type of environment where you actually end up taking questions from people, or in sales, almost getting close to closing a sale or a deal or a contract. Patrick Tinney's book, Unlocking Yes, can help with the negotiation side of things, not just for presenting, but also for any negotiation situation. Then we've got books. This one is a very famous book called The Presentation Secrets of Steve Jobs. Lots of people liked the way that he presented, and I think there's some valid stuff in here, although lots of people are doing it. So I think it's one of those that'll date quite quickly, but worth having quite now. Steal the Show and How to Be Brilliant at Public Speaking gives some great tips on if you have to just stand up and speak about a subject, to give a speech, or if you need to do a great introduction, or if you want to have even more presence within public speaking or presenting. Steal the Show is also good if you have to do a presentation for an interview. So there's some good stuff there too. Now, I couldn't not mention TED. Loads of people watch TED Talks. They are great. There's a load of books that are out there on the subject of TED. If I was to be very honest, I think this one, TED Talks, written by Chris Anderson, who is the head of TED, and actually used to founded Future Publishing, who I worked for years ago. But the TED Talks book shows the official guide to how to do a TED Talk. So there's some great tips in there. The storytelling side of TED is in these two books. Carmine Gillo's books are terrific. He's got Talk Like TED and The Storyteller's Secret. And then how to deliver a TED Talk is kind of a secrets and uncovered book of how to deliver TED Talks. So if you want to use those kind of methods, then these are quite useful. So as I walk back down my steps without throwing myself flat on my back, which would be a huge comedy moment, not something you want to do in a presentation, these are the books that I recommend for presentation skills. So have a little look through, and I hope you like them. Thanks for watching today. I hope it's been useful. I'm Simon Hares, Serial Trainer 7, training that gets you there faster and leaves you there better. All the best and stay safe.